Hello again, Kings fans, and welcome to another of our alumni chats. We've done these interviews around a theme, and today our theme is ex-Kings turned broadcasters. And joining us are Eddie Olczyk and Ray Ferraro. Eddie Olczyk was a King only for one season back in 96-97. He was a teammate of Ray Ferraro, who was a King for four seasons, 1995, 1999. Guys, welcome and thanks for doing this. And before we get into your current professions, I want to go back to that one season when you guys were teammates together here in Los Angeles. I'll start with you, Eddie. What do you remember about that lone season you had in LA? And what did you know about Ray Ferraro? You had both been in the league for a few years.
Yeah.
So yeah, go back to almost 24, 25 years ago.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe, Nick. It's great to see you, Ray. It's always great to be with you, pal. I was really excited. I was a free agent. I was able to sign a 2-year deal with the LA Kings. I just played Winnipeg the prior year, and that was the last season that Winnipeg had been the original Jets. Now, obviously, coming back a long time after that. But I was really excited to go to LA. I had known some guys that had known Ray and played with Ray and had great respect playing against Ray, and was looking forward to getting to know him. I knew Kevin Stevens a little bit. I knew Blakey a little bit. But so there wasn't really much of a relationship that I had with many guys there. But knowing the guys that Ray knew, knowing that Ray was a guy that liked to talk, that our locker room was going to be really loud. Our bus rides are going to be really loud regardless of where we were, whether we won or lost. The bus was going to be loud because you had Ray, you had Artie, you had Kevin Stevens, and you had yours truly. So I was really excited about getting to know those guys. And I was only there 6 months, as you mentioned, Nick, but I developed a couple of real strong relationships there, and certainly Ray's at the top of the list of getting a chance to be a teammate for a short period of time back in that 96 and 97 season.
And how about you, Ray?
Yeah, for me, Nick, so I had gotten there and, gotten to know Artie. And, if you know Artie, love Artie. And, Kevin had, he just had this bemusement of everything going on around him, and so I easily gravitate to Kevin. And then Eddie shows up, and of course I know Eddie from playing against him and from his passion to play. And, he was like me, not quiet on the ice. And so, I kind of knew what we were getting, and was excited because it was another veteran. We were such a young group of players that I was really excited to get another veteran voice in there. So they take us up to training camp, and at Lake Arrowhead. Now,
Bushwood.
Of course, Eddie quickly calls it Bushwood from the old Caddyshack thing. So we're up there and we're in two-a-days and there's nowhere to go, right? Like everyone that goes to Lake Arrowhead for the summer, they're gone by the time training camp gets there. There's nobody there. So one day we have a morning session and then a couple hours off for lunch and then afternoon session. So we go to this restaurant to eat lunch, and they got a bunch of TVs there, and we're watching the Mets play, I forget who, in a playoff game. And Bobby Bonilla comes up to the plate. And so Eddie and I and Artie are making the most noise in there. And Eddie says, "Oh, he's going to hit a grand slam." And I'm like, stop it. No chance. Now we get into this argument. So I want to bet him $100 that Bonilla is not going to hit a grand slam. Eddie goes, "Give me odds." So now everybody's arguing and putting the odds in. It's 5-1 odds. I'm like, I'll still take it. No chance. So now we're yelling on each pitch. All of a sudden it's 3-1. Then it's 3-2 on Bonilla. And all I can think, I get this bad vibe going. And I'm like, man, I hope he bounces this curveball for ball 4. He hits a grand slam out of the ballpark. Eddie jumps up on his seat He's standing on his chair in this restaurant doing this dance because I owe him $500. I'm like, are you serious? You're not going to collect that? Oh yeah. He never let me forget it. I'm like, this is going to be a good year.
It's going to be a very good year. Yeah, that happened, Nick. I'm sure you probably heard some of the conversation that the boys had, whether it was on the plane or the bus or in up at Bushwood during training camp. We had a lot of fun, and when somebody won, man, they pumped their chest out, and when you were on the losing end, man, oh man, you came fighting back, and you were looking to get even. So we had incredible camaraderie both on and off the ice, and that was a great way to kick off the season.
Yeah, and obviously you both you knew of each other back in that season as a King, Eddie's only season as a King. Outgoing guys, not afraid to chat, tell a few jokes. Was that part of your makeup as a player, your personality? Were you rah-rah guys in the locker room? Were you outspoken, or was your personality off the ice different than it was on the ice and in the locker room?
I'm gonna, Nick, if you don't mind, I'm gonna speak to Ray, because I had heard about Ray. I played against Ray. I knew guys that knew Ray. But then when I got into the locker room and I saw him, like I saw exactly what guys told me: a real intense, in your face, passionate guy that loves the game, and you're going to get along with them really well. And like I said, still to this day, I mean, 24, 25 years, whatever in the hell it's been. I mean, it's, our relationship is tremendous. And, but I think that you hear about a guy, Nick, and then you'd like to think you have an open mind about a player or a coach. And then when you get into the room, you sit there and go, wow, that's not what I heard about this guy. But I was able to dissect it myself, so to speak. But anybody that I talked to, Ray was exactly how he was on the ice, that he was off the ice, and was very infectious. And it was a lot of fun being in that room, or being on an airplane, or playing with a guy like Kai Nurminen. You remember Kai Nurminen, Nick? Do you remember Kai Nurminen? Well, let me just tell you a quick story about Kai Nurminen. I think me, Ray, and Kai were out there on the line. Larry Robinson, the legendary Larry Robinson, was our coach, and Larry put us together. So we're out there, Kai's from, he's from Finland. So, we understood him, but, his English wasn't, as strong as maybe as strong as mine was. Ray's is still working on his. But anyway, so,
still getting there.
We're out there playing, we're playing a game. I think we're playing Vancouver, and we come off the ice, and Kai's looking at me going, Edzo, did Razor not see me? What happened, Kai? He go, oh, no. I was open. He did not see me. I said, well, talk to Ray. He's right there. Razor. Yeah, Kai, what do you want? He goes, did you not see me? Nah, I didn't see you. Well, I was 3 meters behind you. What? 3 meters? Hey, Edzo. How far is 3 meters? I don't know. So Kai Nurminen says Ray, he was 3 meters behind him, but Ray didn't see him. I don't know if it's 30 yards or 300 feet. I had no clue. So to push the story a little further, maybe within a week, Nick, Kai comes up lame. He gets hit. He gets drilled. Okay? And we find out that he has a upper leg injury. So somewhere in between his knee and his hip on the front part of his leg. So I think we all know what that is. So he come in one day, and I asked him, I said, hey, how you feeling? Oh, yeah, good. Just a little sore here. Yeah. I said, okay, Thigh, thank you. He goes, no. My name's not Thigh, it's Kai. I go, what did you hurt? My thigh. I go, you are now Kai Nurminen now. So for the rest of the year, Kai Nurminen became Kai Nurminen. I don't even know if he ever played again, Ray, after hurting his thigh. But we have great memories of Kai Nurminen. Whether it was on New Year's Eve where we were out, and Kai walks by an open window and says, "Reza." I look inside, and what do I see? I see Edzo.
Now, okay, so it was everywhere too. On the plane, where Eddie was not a great flyer, didn't like turbulence so much. So, a charter flight, as you know, we can walk around and move around. We'd hit a bump, and Edzo would drop into the nearest seat and crank on his seatbelt so tight. And Artie, Kevin Stevens, no matter where he is, would go, "Oh yeah, that thing's going to help you, Edzo, if this thing goes nose down." And so Eddie's sweating, and we're just, it's just so funny to watch.
Oh,
He's
no,
so
wait a second.
uncomfortable.
It wasn't
funny.
funny. It was not
Oh,
funny.
it's hilarious.
It was not. Hey, Nick,
Okay.
Nick, do you remember the trip we were flying home from Dallas back to LA? Was like in January, and that was when the Santa Ana winds were like at their highest, I remember. And the pilot, we just got our ass kicked by Dallas. Like, it was bad. Like, we lost 6-2 or something. So we're getting on the plane. We're before we take off, the pilot gets on there and goes, "Guys, we got some good news and bad news." Yeah, okay, so we're waiting here. He goes, "The bad news is LAX has been closed all day because of the Santa Ana winds. But we're gonna get up in the air and see if it opens in between now and then. And if not, we're gonna have to land in Vegas for the night, and we'll have to try tomorrow morning." So we're like, "Yes!"
Oh,
yes!
There's a lot of guys pumping for Vegas.
We're going to Vegas. So the pilot gets back on halfway through and goes, "Guys, just an update here. Just want to let you know that LAX is still closed, but we're going to give it a try." We're going to give it a try? What the hell is this guy doing? I mean, what is he, a free agent? He's trying to impress Sam McMaster? I'm like, give it a try. So I call the flight attendant over and I go, wait, we're going to try? Wait, if the airport's closed, why are we flying in a million mile an hour winds there? Like, is that really smart? "Oh, no, it'll be fine, sir." I'm like, "No, it's not going to be fine." So they said it's going to get a little rough. So I get strapped in. I'm sweating. I got every air vent on the world. I got, "Edzo, kiss your ass goodbye. This is it. It's over." Ray's prodding everybody back there. So we're getting ready to, get in for this landing. And I remember Dougie Smolek, he yells up to the front of the plane. Now, again, the airport's closed, but we're going to try to land in it. So Dougie Z yells up to the front of the plane to our general manager, Sam McMaster. He says, I'll paraphrase, he yells up, he goes, "Hey, Sam, sign the pilot. He's got more plums than half the guys on this team." So we land. Sideways,
if I remember.
Oh, that was brutal.
It was the worst. I mean, like, it was the dumbest thing we ever did. When we got off the plane, you had to walk like with your head down, like to try to get through the wind. It was like a disaster. So I'm like, so now you wonder why I don't like to fly. I mean, was that smart, Ray? Like, was that really smart?
There was, for the first 3 hours of that flight, it was kind of fun. We thought we were going to Vegas. We're like, there's no way they're going to land. The last 45 minutes, there was not a lot being said. Like, we were a little nervous. This is not a good thing.
Ray, what do you remember about Thigh? What do you remember about Thigh?
Okay.
Nurminen?
3 things. One, he had a helmet that was like a complete bucket, and it had these big ear flaps that came down, and you could not look at him without laughing. You'd be on the bench, you'd turn and you'd go, and I'd think in my head, what the hell is he wearing? It was a Coho helmet. It was enormous. 2, he could really shoot. And so, like, if you could get him the puck somewhere, he could really shoot. 3, he didn't understand any drill that we were doing. And so when me and him and Eddie are on a line, we're going one way, Thigh is flying the other way. He's got no idea what's going on. And it kind of occurs to us at some point, unless we draw the drill for him, he's never going to know what's going on. And so I never thought of it at the time, only when I was much older and retired. I'm like, and I'm traveling around at the World Hockey Championships, and you're like, man, you're in all these different countries. Imagine how hard it would have been coming from Finland to North America, and you got a bunch of guys that are doing their own thing, and you're on the team and you don't understand anything that's going on. So I remember having conversations with Kai, and then he'd leave and I'd think, He has no idea what I just told him. Maybe it was probably better for him that he didn't. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we could spend probably another hour on the one season you guys were teammates. But,
I've got one more gem for you.
Okay, all right, throw it in.
Okay. I think this is maybe the 15 greatest minutes of a pregame meal that I've ever seen. So we're at a table. It's always the same guys. Artie,
You're in Tampa. We were in Tampa, Ray.
Artie, Eddie, and myself. They get into an argument about college football. So now, at this point, it's now gotten heated. At this point, Eddie's up at the buffet, and he's getting some soup. Artie calls him stupid. This infuriates Eddie to no end. So he comes at Artie with the soup ladle, like he's going to hit him with the soup ladle. And Artie's going, "What are you doing with that, Edzo?" And so he comes right over and then he turns around and he's so mad, Eddie puts the soup ladle down and goes up to the room. That's it. He's had it. So he goes up to the room. Now we finish our meal, and Artie, of course, we're laughing. We're like, "Whoa, did Eddie lose it there? That was funny." So we're walking down our hallway to our rooms, which were kind of in the same area.
And I'm rooming with Artie.
Kevin and Eddie are rooming together. We come walking down the hall, and there's a pillow and a blanket outside of Eddie and Artie's room. So Artie's like, "What's going on here?" So Eddie's got the chain on the door. So Artie's knocking on the door. "Let me in, Edzo." And he's like, "Not till you apologize." "Oh, I was kidding, Edzo." He makes him, so you had a big Artie, right? 6'3", 200 and whatever pounds. And he's knocking on the door, apologizing through the door for calling him stupid. And then Eddie goes, "Tell me you love me, Artie." "Oh, I love you, Artie." And so until then, Artie was sleeping on a pillow and a blanket out in the hallway. It was awesome. So good.
Hey, Nick, just to cap off that story, why I didn't like to be called stupid was because when I was in New York playing for the Rangers, not 2 years earlier than that, my former coach, Mike Keenan, called me stupid a few times, and it really kind of struck a chord. So when we were arguing about college football and, athletes and whatever and sponsors, Artie kept calling it. I said, "Artie, don't you call me stupid again." He went, "Stupid, stupid, stupid." I'm like, "That's it. That's it." And he goes, when he was talking through me through the door, he was like, "I didn't mean like you were stupid, stupid. You're like goofy, stupid." So, so at least I left him a pillow and a blanket, and Artie came into the room, and I think we actually beat Tampa that night. So we had a good time there, that pregame. That was one of about 1,000 stories we had at the pregame meal.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Great stuff. All right, now I want to move along to the transition both of you have made, player to your current vocation, was hockey analyst, broadcaster. You both played over 1,000 games in the NHL. Ray, 408 goals. Eddie had 342. And in your time in LA, you had personal milestones. Ray, you played your 1,000th game in a Kings jersey. And Eddie, you scored your 300th NHL goal when you were with the Kings. But when you're playing and your career is winding down, did either one of you give any thought to what am I going to be doing when my playing career is over? Or is this something that you dealt with when you had to deal with it at the end of your career? And Eddie, I know you coached for a bit after you played, but was that in line with your thinking while you were still playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think when after the tough go I had in New York in '94, Nick, I started thinking, look, I played 10 years already, and there's a player you think you're going to play forever, and father and mother time are undefeated the last time I checked. So I think I started really thinking about it and preparing for it after that year in New York. We won the Cup in '94, and I still played another 5+ years or whatever. But I just think that when wanting to always be a part of the game. Hockey's always been a part of, of our lives. And I thought, you know what, maybe there's an opportunity to, get into, television or radio. I actually got my start in radio and really enjoyed doing games when I wasn't in the playoffs, and being able to just kind of get a leg up and get a feel for it and open up some doors. And then, whenever hockey was, playing was going to be over, then, maybe fall right into it. So I did think about it, really. I mean, 5+ years prior to when I retired, when I thought, you know what, maybe I could start, even and sure enough, for the exception of those couple of years when I coached in Pittsburgh, as you mentioned, Nick, from 2000, 2003, I was a broadcaster full time. Then for the 2.5 years in Pittsburgh coaching, and then since 06, I've been a broadcaster full time. So yeah, I was thinking about it well before I hung them up.
Okay, how about you, Ray?
Yeah, interesting. The trade to Los Angeles opened up broadcasting for me, and so I got traded from the Rangers to LA, and I had just signed with the Rangers in the summer as a free agent, 4-year deal. And then I get traded in March of that year to LA. So I'm a little lost, right? Like I'm not really sure what's going to go on. And I played for the World Championship team in 1996 in Vienna. And then the next year I play in LA, and we're going to miss the playoffs. And I get a call or my agent gets a call from a guy at ESPN, Barry Sachs. And Barry, I will always be indebted to. He was the head of talent, as they call it, on-air people at ESPN too. He called my agent and said, hey, would Ray like to come and do some studio work on NHL Tonight as soon as the playoffs are over? I'd never given any thought to any of it. I still thought I had plenty of years left and hadn't really changed that mindset. So my agent says, do you want to go do it? I said, well, I don't know what the heck to do. And he said, well, why don't you just go try it? So I went to ESPN. I landed at 3 p.m. We have a production meeting. I don't know what's going on. They're talking about all this stuff and highlights and your camera this and camera that. I got no idea. I went on the air at 11 o'clock, totally sweated through my blue shirt. I was so scared about I didn't know what I was doing. Barry Melrose was, of course, with me, and and Barry's such a generous, kind guy. He's like, what are you nervous for? Like, just talk to the camera. It's just hockey. And, he really helped me along. But being traded to LA opened up that opportunity. So I did the 2 weeks, and apparently it went well. And the next year they asked me back for a month. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to head towards this. I always thought that I would coach, but it felt so natural that I was doing it. I thought, well, I'm going to do it. Well, my last year, I'm playing in St. Louis. And now I've been doing it for like 5 years. When I'm finished in the playoffs, I go to ESPN. So Yuri Fisher, this great big defenseman for Detroit, there's a scrum by the net. He's got me around the back of the neck, and I'm bent over the back of the net. And Steve Yzerman skates by and goes, hey, why don't you analyze that? And then he keeps on going. And I'm like, oh, I guess the guys have noticed that I'm doing this. But that's how I started. And I retired in 2002, and I've been broadcasting ever since. I've been really, really lucky. I love it. Edzo, you love it, right? Like, it's just, you get to be around the game, around the guys. You see the game change and evolve. And I don't know. I like being part of it. Hockey's been part of our lives forever, and it's been pretty awesome.
Hey, Ray, you touched on it there, the Yuri Fisher incident. Analyze this. Was it a tough transition for both of you to go from player to a broadcaster, where you're criticizing guys that you knew how tough the game is to play, and in some cases, I'm sure, criticizing guys that you played with or against? Was that an issue for either one of you?
No, not for me. I'll say no, and not for me at all. The reason being, I had some really good advice early on, and that was just be yourself and be honest. And I thought, well, I can see the game, but the people watching it can see it too. If somebody makes a mistake, I think it's my job to point it out, keeping in mind, as you mentioned, Nick, how hard the game is. But if I don't analyze that, then what am I doing there? Like then somebody else could be there. And so there's been some times where guys haven't liked what I've said, and they've pulled me aside and let me know that they didn't. And so I tell them why I said what I said, and sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. I don't find it hard at all because I've been there. I've made every mistake those guys are making, right? Like you can't get through it without making mistakes. And I remember how hard it is. I don't think it's my job. And I never hear Eddie say this either. And I never say it. And I think it's silly to say, oh, the player should have done something better with it there. Oh, really? You mean like when he went to pass it to his guy and he passed it to the other team and they scored, he should do something different? Hey, Edzo, our job's to say, hey, look, he could have gone up the boards here. He could have, he had more time. Like, we're just analyzing it. It's not to be a jack to say, oh, that guy's terrible. That's not the point. The point is to offer an analysis of what happened. And I think in today's game, it goes so fast. The analysis has to be quick. It's got to be to the point. And I think both of us can do that and do it fairly. And I think that's the key, is you got to be honest and fair.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, Nick, is it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you can critique somebody, you can take somebody out to the woodshed, but if you do it in a professional way, I think most people will respect that. And I don't think you belabor it. I think you just say it and you move on. Now, Ray talks about being confronted by players of not liking, what they said or what Ray said or I said or whatever. And I said, look, I let players, that's fine. That's fine. I said, but, maybe I did critique you here, or I went a little hard here, but, where were you the other day when I sit there and threw, balloons and accolades your way? Like, how about a thank you when I, told everybody you should go to the All-Star game? Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, you can't sit there and come back and have rabbit ears and say, well, geez, that's not fair or whatever. But, if you have a guy that's both and says, hey, man, thanks a lot. I mean, there are a lot of players today that will go out of their way and say, hey, man, thanks for the love or whatever, appreciate it or whatever. Yep. And look, they know it's a job, but again, you say it, you move on, and we've been there, as Ray said, Nick. It's not easy. I mean, this. You got, you live and breathe with the Kings, and you see these guys. But look at it, if a goalie has a bad night, or can't sit there and go, geez, the sun was in his eyes, or the puck blended in with the pizza vendor or whatever. Like, I mean, people don't want to hear that. You have to have credibility, and I think Ray certainly has that, and I think I've developed that over the years, and that's what you try to do. But anytime I talk to young broadcasters, is just tell them, say, look, to Ray's point is, look, be quick to the point and be respectful. But look, you have a job to do, and you can critique, but it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I think that's how you build really credibility, and I think people appreciate humility. And the one last thing I will say, and I think we both do it, Nick, is that if you make a mistake or you misidentify a player, or, you think, that was a terrible call by the official or whatever, well, you know what? Hey, if you see the replay and you go back the other way, you sit there and go, hey, you know what? My bad. I'm wrong. It was my mistake. You don't sit there and go, you avoid it. Like, if you make a mistake, own up to it. And I think your fan base or fans in the National Hockey League or anybody that watches sports appreciates that humility from a broadcaster when they're wrong, or they misidentify somebody, or something that they say is not right, and you correct yourself and you move on, because once you say it, it's live TV or live radio, it's off to Mars, and you're not going to get it back. So do the best that you can with the time that you have.
Yeah. Both of you have obviously done very well in broadcasting. Eddie, you've been paired up with Pat Foley in Chicago on their telecast for a number of years now. You also worked with the recently retired Mike Emmerich on the NBC games for a number of years. And Ray, in Canada, you're probably as well known as anybody for your work on TSN and other Canadian outlets. So you've worked with a lot of great people, not only as partners, but in the industry, directors, producers. I want to talk about, maybe, are there individuals that you can look back and say, boy, that's really helped me, influenced me in my career? Ray, I'll start with you.
Oh, as far as a broadcaster, the guy that I looked up to and thought was always the best was John Davidson. And I thought JD was amazing. He had stories, he had energy, he had connections. And I remember asking him about like watching him in the room and how he took his notes. He never took them in front of anybody. He just talked. And then he'd go around the corner and he'd write a bunch of stuff down on some paper that he had folded, like the paper, a long piece of paper, he had it folded in thirds and he would write on it. And so I asked him, how he went about that. And I found JD to be really helpful. The late Dave Strader, I did my first game with Dave and he was amazing. He gave me, in the few times we worked together, but because I was so new, he gave me a roadmap of how to chase the game, like how to study it, how to learn it. My play-by-play partners in Canada, for the most part, Gord Miller and Chris Cuthbert, are two of the very best. I've learned passion and preparation. They each go about it a little bit differently. And those are from, I would say, the broadcast side. And, like, I wish I would work more with Ed, because I think, it would be super fun, and I think we would do a great job together. But I wish we would have had more opportunity to work together. From the truck side, I don't know what you knew about the truck, Eddie, before you started broadcasting. I had no idea, Nick. I didn't know what the producer did. I didn't know what the director did. I didn't even know who was talking in my ear. It was just some guy in a truck below the arena. And then I got to learn from, actually, he's one of Eddie's producers in Chicago now, was a young guy at the time, but Mitch Kersner was one of my first producers. Larry Isaacs, a legendary producer up here in Canada. And now Chris Edwards is my producer at the World Junior Tournament, which, when the World Juniors are on, we'll have 7 to 10 million viewers, and, you're doing a big show. And each one of them do it a little differently. But what I learned from all of them is, you may be the guy speaking at the end of the chain, but this team behind you is critical. And I learned from the producers how important everybody was and what they did. And I never understood that they cared and loved about their job as much as I did. And it's been a long road, but man, it's been instructive of how much help you get before you start to speak.
Yeah, it's a team effort, Nick. You know this, and Ray touched on it. I won't go too long. It really is a team effort, from the people, laying the cable and all the people behind the scenes, and then, the people inside the truck, and then get us on the air. And, for me, I was lucky enough to start doing games on radio, as I said, and I got a chance to work with the legendary Bob Miller a bunch of times on NHL radio and doing playoff games, back in the mid '90s. So, look, I was lucky enough to work with Bob Miller, with Dave Strader, as Razor had mentioned. And then my hardcore partners here over the course of the last, 20 years have been Mike Lang, the legendary Hall of Fame voice for the Pittsburgh Penguins, Hockey Hall of Famer, working with the great Pat Foley here in Chicago, doing the Blackhawks games for the last.
Let me interrupt. Nobody reads an ad like you and Pat.
Well, no, that's, we got a lot of promos. We got a lot of selling to do.
When you guys promo something, I find myself giggling away while the plays. I love it. And so it's awesome.
And then working with Doc Emmerich the last 14 years. So I have a pretty damn good agent hooking me up with some of the very best that have ever done the game. And, I've been very, very lucky. And, one producer, or two producers really, Sam Flood, my boss at NBC, and Ray worked at NBC as well. And Sam is a passionate hockey guy. Sam was a longtime producer of hockey at NBC and really helped me when I was kind of finding my way nationally. And also Mike Leary, who's now doing Cubs baseball on Marquee Network here in Chicago, did a bunch of games for the Blackhawks. And when I was there, and then was in Dallas working with the Stars and the Rangers, and now he's back doing baseball. But I just think, when you have great people around you, it makes your job, really easy, and very thankful for, the relationships that have developed, Nick, over the years of working on a team behind the scenes and doing what we're, what we're able to do. So it's a lot of fun, and there have been many, many people along the way. And then the one last thing I will say, there's no doubt, I think John Davidson is and has been the best hockey analyst that we've ever had in the National Hockey League. And I got the great opportunity to try to follow in the footsteps of JD when JD left to go be the president of the St. Louis Blues back in 06-07 season. I got an opportunity to try to sit in that seat and fill his skates and sit next to Doc Emmerich, and was able to do that for 14 years. So learned a lot from JD, of watching him, communicating with him, like Ray said. And we've been pretty darn lucky to have somebody like JD still involved in a game, obviously at a high level with the Rangers.
Yeah. Well said, guys. Now let's move to the here and now. And, you've both been retired for some 18, 20 years. The game today, what do you like about it? What concerns you, if there are any concerns? It's a different game, I'm sure you'll both agree, from when you both broke in back in the early 80s. I'll start with you, Ray.
Well, the speed and the skill is what, of course, stands out immensely. Right from the goaltending position on out, guys are able to do things on the ice that we couldn't do. Their skating agility, not so much the speed, although, Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon are, they're otherworldly with the way they skate. But the agility that the guys have to handle the puck while they're moving as quickly as they are, or in traffic as they are, I marvel at that. I miss the conflict a little bit. I'm not talking especially about fighting. I'm talking about the games are so fast, you can't play them as physically as you could have in the past. And not with 100 crashing hits either, but there's more free flow to the game. And I think there are times where it's a little bit like air hockey, where if you've ever played air hockey, the puck just smashes around the table for a while. It goes really fast, not much happens, and then it ends up in the net. And you're like, oh, there's a goal. Like there was no play. I think the game at times goes so fast, it's hard for the guys to make a play. And if there were a little bit of a speed bump in the game somewhere, maybe there becomes more passing plays. Just think of it. Eds, I'll turn this to you, but think of how many great passing plays result in a goal. And the answer is not many, because it's so fast you don't have time to make a play. Today, or December the 15th, is the anniversary of Sergei Fedorov's five-goal game. Watch the goals in that game. Watch the passing. That's not available today because the game goes so fast. And I think that's a bit of a miss.
Yeah, I think that, the game's certainly in a great place. You have we have hockey in every area of North America. We got another team coming in next year in Seattle, where both Ray and I have blood in the game there with the Seattle Kraken moving forward. But I think the one thing is I think the wide range of talent, the depth of talent throughout the league is something that has been that's been impressive to me, Nick and Ray, over, I don't want to say the last 5 years, but I'll probably go even a little bit farther than that. Like you could sit there and go, wow, how hard would it be to make a list of the top 10 players in the league right now? How hard would it be to make a top 5 list at each position? You could go, 15, 16, 17 deep, and you might have maybe 2 or 3 of the same players, but all of a sudden the range is just so deep. So that's what's really impressed me, the skill level of these players, and the ability, as Ray touched on, to be able to make plays at a high rate of speed. And the other thing is I think there is dislike at some levels, especially when you get to playoffs, but I don't see it as much in the regular season, which I think is a little bit disappointing. And it has nothing to do with dropping the gloves or whatever. I just think players now know each other more now than they ever did before. And whether that's because of the world we live in, social media, or agents, or people training together, working out together. I mean, look at, I just know back in the day, and Ray and I do not like to, mention when we're doing the games, when I played. No, that's, but I am going to use that. When we played, like, you would never get caught skating around in warm-ups and having a conversation with a guy on the other team. You didn't have to worry about the guy on the other team or the tough guy on the other team. You had to worry about getting your ass kicked by the guys in your own locker room, or somebody putting you up on the, on a coat rack in between periods or right before the game started, because you were communicating with, with somebody on the other team. So again, the game has changed. I understand that, but I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more, a little bit more dislike for, the other team or the opponent a little bit more so in the regular season. I think playoff hockey is great. And even coming out of the bubble and what happened, during the pandemic, it was terrific, and there was a lot of dislike going on, and for a lot of reasons, but that would be the one thing. But I think the game's in a really, really good place. The goaltending is, wow. The goaltending is just absolutely incredible. And, it's a lot of fun to be a part of those games and be in the buildings when you get all these great athletes together and playing the greatest game in the world.
Well, I will say that the game is also in a good place because of the job that the two of you do throughout the course of any season. Ray predominantly in Canada, north of the border, and Eddie here in the United States. And it's been fun. We could go on forever. I know you two could. I don't know if I could keep up. But thanks for doing this, and all the best to both of you down the road. We'll see you in the near future, certainly. And until our next chat with Kai Nurminen, who will have a rebuttal to both Ray and Eddie Olczyk. Take care, Kings fans. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us. See you later.